of taxes that have to be paid by a corporation. So we're going to look at the total revenue, the total amount earned, subtract out any of our cost of goods sold. We're going to take out all of our operating expenses, and we're going to take out any interest that we paid. Any kind of loans we paid off, anything like that, is also removed before we have to worry about our taxes. That's one of the benefits of having debt as a corporation. First thing I'm going to do is look at the amount of my earnings, 25,000, 11 million, 30 million. Then we're going to figure out where they land on the taxable income bracket. So 25,000 is between 0 and 50,000. So I'm going to mark that. This is just so it's a little easier to follow along and I don't get lost. I also have $11 million, which falls between 10 million and 15 million. I'm going to mark that as well. And lastly, $30 million, which is definitely greater than $18,333,333. So I'm going to mark that as well. All right, the first one, $25,000. This is by far the easiest one to determine. All I'm going to have to do is take $25,000 and multiply that by 0.15 or 15%. So if I get out my BA2 calculator that you will need for this class, I type in 25000 for $25,000 and I multiply that by 0.15 or 15%. That gives me a total of $3,750. So $3,750. That's my first problem. It's already solved. That one's not too bad. Now my next amount, 11 million. I'm going to have to do a little more extra computation on this one. So what I'm going to do is say, all right, my bracket is 10 million to 15 million. I have $11 million, and I'm going to subtract out that 10 million, that lower end of the bracket. I know the taxation on that is $3.4 million. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more space. It just works better when you do. $3,400,000. That leaves me with $1 million left over. Now I'm going to have to multiply this by that 35%. So 1 million times 0.35 equals, let's find out. So I have 1 million times 0.35, which should be $350,000. So 350,123. And then I'm just going to take that answer I already have, 350,000, and add to that the amount I know I need to pay in taxes, $3.4 million. And that gives me a $3.75 million that I have to pay in taxes for this corporation. 3,750,123. So the amount of taxes I need to pay for that $11 million in earnings is $3,750,000. Now my last problem, let's see, highlight that, and my 30 million, which is definitely over still, $18,333,333. So I'm going to put my 30 million right here, 30 million. I'm going to subtract out my 18,333,333. This will be, first off, I know I'm going to have to pay that $6,416,667 because I already know that. It tells me that right here. So on that 18.3 million, I'm going to need to pay $6,416,667. Now, what's the difference between the 30,000 and the 30 million and the 18 million? So I need to just subtract 30 minus $18,333,333. That will give me $11,666,667. And I'm going to need to multiply that by 35 times 0.35 times 0.35 equals, blocking myself there, I need to be able to write that, 4,083,333 and 45 cents, which I'm not even going to worry about. So we're going to skip that. Now, all I have to do is add that initial amount, that 6.4 million, plus 6,416,667 equals $10,500,000. That's all there is to it. It's easiest if you do it that way. There are a number of other methods you could use. I find, though, that if I just write it out this way, I have the best chances of getting the correct answer. And in just a minute, we will figure out the average tax rate. I took the time to clean up my answers a little bit here. But if you remember, the tax amount due for the $25,000 was $3,750. The taxes due for the $11 million in earnings was $3,750,000, and the tax liability for the $30 million was $10,500,000. To figure out the average tax rate is super easy. All we do is take our tax amount due and divide our total earnings. So it'll be 3,750 divided by 25,000. 3,750,000 divided by 11 million. And 10,500,000 divided by 30 million. So the first one we should know just right out of the gate that it's going to be 15%. But let's run it through anyway, just to make sure that calculations are all correct. We take the tax amount due of $3,750 divided by $25,000, 0.15, so 15%. 0.15, 15% is the average tax rate. Now our next problem is that 11 million. We have to pay the IRS $3,750,000, and we're going to divide that by the total earnings of $11 million, and that is taxed at a rate of 0.3409, which would be 34.09%, basically 34%. Lastly, our 30 million. We know we have to pay 10,500,000 in taxes. We're going to take that and divide it by 30 million, which is our total earnings. That will give us 35%. 0.35 or 35%, which makes sense because if we go up here, we can see that our tax rate for our 25,000 is 15%. We can see that our earnings between 10 million and 15 million is about 34%. 10 million, or almost 90% of this was taxed at a 34% rate. So that makes sense. And then over 18 at 35%. We're had to pay 38% for some of that, but the rest is really at 35. So there we go. We can kind of double check our work and find out our different tax rates, well, the amount due and our average tax rate, which is 15, 34, and 35. This should be able to help you with your homework assignment. I think there's just a few questions, maybe 5 or 6. If you have any other questions, send me an email. We'll see what we can work out.